Hey guys, can everyone hear me? If you can, please write in the stage questions channel above the stage so that we can make. Okay. So, how's everyone doing? I'm a little ill, so my voice is a bit different, but hopefully there's not going to be any problem with that during the AMA. But we can maybe wait 1 or 2 more minutes and then we can start the AMA. So, it's been a while since our last AMA. I think the last one we did was in 2022. But there has been a lot of updates and developments in the meantime. As you guys have been following with the release of Prism Pro at the end of 2022, we've seen a lot of usage on Prism Pro. It's basically become the primary DEX that is built on top of OpenBook, which is pretty cool. And we're building some new exciting features on top of that as well. But apart from OpenBook, we've been taking a look at the new limit order book DEX called Phoenix by Ellipsis Labs, which has been pretty cool. And they kind of changed a lot of things. Basically, there's a lot of differences between the OpenBook, which is based on Serum, V3, and Ellipsis took a different approach and improved a bunch of things. But it's going to be really interesting to see if we can plug that into Prism Pro as well and see what kind of improvements we can come up with and maybe sort of try to combine both OpenBook and Ellipsis Phoenix to create a unique trading experience for users, which could be interesting. So we're definitely looking into that. But we can start with the main announcement since there's 18 people in the stage right now. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, if you have anything prepared, feel free to write in the stage questions channel, and I'll be able to go through them after I'm done with the announcing. But also, Ubermensch is going to give away 10,000 Prism to 10 winners during the AMA. So, yeah, that's that. And we can start with the announcement. So, if you guys, one of the one of the questions that I feel is coming and has been coming is when is Prism V3 going to be released? And it's already released. So if you go to prism.ag right now, it's already deployed and it just went live like 2 minutes ago. So let me actually show you the link here. You guys can check it out. There's a bunch of new updates and improvements here. There's also an announcement on Medium. There's an article which goes through the updates. So I'm just gonna open it up and try to share my screen and go through what we've been working on. Just give me 1 second. Here's the announcement post. So V3 is one of our biggest updates so far. And we've improved everything from the aggregation algorithm to optimizing the website and loading speeds to creating the best UI and UX on Solana. And we've also delivered some other pretty cool updates as well, which I'm going to go into. So just give me 1 second. Let me make sure that we have the V3 announcement go live during the AMA on Twitter. Let me check. Just a second. In the meantime, feel free to take a look at Prism app and check Okay, so the Twitter post is up. Um, we're gonna do a thread of kind of overview of what's happening and what's new in V3 pretty soon after the AMA, most likely. But in the meantime, let me see, go to the Medium article, and let me see if I can share my screen here. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Okay, so I think I can share my screen. And 1 second. Okay, looks like it needs me to restart the browser, so I'm just gonna do that and be right back in like under a minute. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for that. Uh, you guys can hear me, right? Great. So can you guys see the screen that I'm sharing right now? If you can see the screen, please write in the stage questions chat so I go ahead. Okay. So this is the biggest update we've had, and it touches upon a few different things. So one of the things that we kind of focused on was creating a mobile-first design, which means that since a lot of usage overall on the internet is mobile-focused and kind of become increasing on mobile and decreasing on desktop and computers, it's important to have a design which fits mobile phones and it's easy to use on the phone. Apart from that, there's also a side kind of thing. One of the most important things that we decided to create a mobile first design is because of Solana's phone, which is called Saga. And Solana Mobile is going to play a huge role, we believe, in the future, especially in crypto, and it's most likely going to expand on other chains and kind of allow other chains to integrate functionality that Saga has. You guys can see the screen, right? Or is Rasa talking about something else? Um, 1 second. Let me share it again. How about now? Can you guys see it now? Okay, if you can't see the screen that I'm sharing, then you can go to Prism Twitter, and we just made a post about the V3, and there's a Medium article link there, and you can click on that. That's what I'm sharing basically, and that's what I'm going to go through right now. Yeah, Steve just posted the Medium link in here. So since Saga is very important, and we believe it's going to play a very important role in the future, especially as more apps on Solana port into mobile and create mobile experiences and apps, we think that Prism should be there as well. And we kind of made sure that the mobile experience is as good, if not better, than the desktop experience. So the next thing is the aggregation. So we've worked on the aggregation a lot, and there has been major improvements in there. So here in this screen, if you scroll, if you're not watching the screen share and if you're reading the article, you can scroll down to the better aggregation part. And there is a comparison between Prism V2, basically the older version of Prism. There's Jupyter and there's Prism V3. So you can also check this yourself on Prism. There's a lot of tokens that Prism V3 aggregates much better than anything else on Solana. And in this example, we're comparing 10,000 USDC to DFL. You can also try other coins if you want. And there's a huge difference between V3, Jupyter V2, and V2 on Prism. So better aggregation means better rates for users and more savings and etc. So that's basically one of the core features for Prism, and that's what Prism is about. And competition with Jupyter and other DEX aggregators is very good. It's not bad. We like that because more competition means that both, and other products as well, but both Prism and Jupyter are going to keep releasing better products, and ultimately that's going to be better for you guys, the users, and everyone, for crypto as well. So yeah, the aggregation is improved a lot. One of the things that we're also working, this is the V3 isn't beta right now, so there's a lot of features that we're still working on, which isn't live yet. So one of them is aggregation API. So right now you might know that the aggregator is decentralized, so that means that the aggregation itself happens on your computer or on your phone locally. Whereas on other platforms, for example, Jupyter has an API where you can call their server and make a request, and then the aggregation happens on their server and returns the parameters that you need to make the transaction. And there are different use cases for both decentralized and centralized approaches. And one of the reasons is if you only have a centralized one, for example, that's not a good idea, because if your server goes down or if there's a lot of traffic on your server, that means that the aggregation won't happen and users won't be able to swap. And basically you're going to have downtime. But if the aggregation is decentralized, that means that if the aggregation happens locally on your device, that means that you're always going to be able to do the aggregation and do the swap at best rates. Now the downside of decentralized compared to centralized is that since you're doing the aggregation on your device, that means the SDK, basically the Prism, is using the computing power of your device. And that might be heavy on some devices, depending on what kind of device you have. If you have a phone, then phones have much less computing power than computers. On computers, it's not a big deal, but on phones, it might be a bit slower than if you had an API which called a server and did the aggregation on the server side. So both have, so the advantages of an API is that it's very fast and it doesn't require any computing power. And the advantage of decentralized is that it's not going to go down and you'll be able to do aggregation anytime. So the obvious next step is to have both of them, right? Because some users might want to use an API most of the time if they want to have fast aggregation and trade quickly. But some users prefer decentralized version if they want to make sure that the trades are always going to happen and they're always going to be able to get the best price. So we can create a combination of two. So one is an API, and if it fails, then it's going to fall back to the SDK and do the aggregation locally. So I'm gonna I'm gonna answer the questions in a bit, but let me go to the next part here. So we've added the history page, and pretty much the whole platform is redesigned. So you can see here that it looks much different than the old history page, which didn't work sometimes, and now this one is fully functional and it shows all your swap transactions and you can kind of filter by different time frames. So history page is always good, so you can check your transactions, the swaps you made at what rates, and then compare to the rates that are available now and make decisions based on that. The next one is Prism Pools. So this has been live for quite some time now, and here you can see that it already has over 100 million in volume and 700K in TVL. So Prism Pools is a new sort of way of creating liquidity pools based on a multi-token funds deployed on Symmetry Engine. The way it works is basically Prism has deployed funds as liquidity pools on Symmetry and created the liquidity provision parameters. And then the pools that are created here plug back into Prism and also into Jupiter. And when people trade different assets that are in the pool, for example, in the Solana pool, if they trade any assets between USDC, USDC Sol, and MSOL, this means that the pool can create a direct market between any asset that is in the composition. So to give you guys a quick example, let's say we have USDC Sol market and like a liquidity pool on like Radium, let's say. Let's say we have USDC Sol and USDC MSOL. And there is no Sol MSOL direct market, right? What happens is when a user is trying to swap MSOL into Sol, if there's no direct market between the two, what happens is first the Sol is swapped into USDC, and then the USDC is swapped into MSOL. So that those are two swaps that are actually happening. That means that the user is paying fee twice to each liquidity provider. In most cases, the fees are on average 0.25% of the amount that you're trying to swap, but it could be higher. So I think Orca has 0.3% on their AMMs, Radium has 0.25%, and etc. And what Prism Pool do is it creates direct pairs for each market. So if you're trying to swap, for example, in here, you can see the assets that are in here. So I'm pretty sure that there's no direct market between MSOL and Coin98, let's say. So if you were trying to swap Coin98 into MSOL, you would have to, usually you would have to, normally you would have to sell the Coin98 first and then buy MSOL with USDC. That's what would happen in the swap transaction, and you would pay the fee twice. But here, since all these tokens are in the composition, in the Solana DeFi index pool, that means that users who are trying to swap Solana DeFi index is going to offer a direct pair for swap. Also, that means that we dynamically price the fees. So it's the fees we take on Prism Pool is not fixed. It basically varies between the liquidity that is available on the market in general and also on the on chain as well. So yeah, I'm gonna show you guys the Prism pools on Prism as well, like on the platform after after I go through the Medium article. So we can move on to Prism Pro. We did a pretty major performance improvements on Prism Pro recently, so it was a few days ago. And if you want to see the comparison between the two, the old version of Prism Pro and the new version, there's like 5 times the difference in speed, in the loading speeds. So there's a tweet that we tweeted, I think it was 6 days ago or something like that, that you can check out. There's a video comparison between the two, and it's pretty cool to see. But apart from that, we changed the color palette to match the Prism V3, and also did visual improvements as well. And there's a lot of pretty cool features that are coming out as well, which I'm not going to talk about in this AMA, but we'll be announcing pretty soon. And yeah, the rest you can check it out here. And some of the things that are coming are open sourcing our aggregator. So the reason for that is we're going to release a liquidity source integration guide, and that is going to allow developers to really easily plug in their liquidity sources into Prism. And that's going to basically result in Prism ecosystem growing exponentially. Because right now, the way it works is if there is a new liquidity provider, we have to reach out, or they have to reach out to us, and then give us their SDK, and then we have to integrate that manually ourselves into Prism. And that takes time. That's one thing. And also, different people write their own SDKs differently. And we need to make sure that it fits to our SDK and it kind of plugs into our SDK. And a lot of times, what happens is we have to modify their SDK to make sure it's optimized for Prism and also it works seamlessly. You guys probably remember some time ago there used to be liquidity provider issues. Some providers were experiencing issues, which resulted in bad user experience on Prism, and etc. So what that's going to do is first we're going to be that's going to allow for really quick liquidity provision integration. There's a lot of protocols that are coming from Ethereum and other layer 2 chains into Solana right now, which are interested in dexes and kind of porting their dexes onto Solana and creating liquidity sources here. And one of the things that we need to make sure is once they come, they have a really easy way to integrate their liquidity sources into our aggregator and grow the ecosystem. And apart from that, we're working on staking tools. So we announced this kind of quietly some time ago. And the reason we started working on this is because there is like 400,000 stakers on Solana who stake native Sol. And there's not a really easy way to track your stake and see the rewards that you're getting per epoch, see the estimated rewards, and etc. So we're creating that, and it's pretty much ready. It's going to be released in a few days. And I'm going to post a screenshot for you guys in the chat in a few minutes once I'm done with the announcements. So that's going to be pretty cool because first you'll be able to stake directly from Prism. Wallets like Phantom and other wallets have a lot of lag for some reason when you're viewing your staking, how much you have staked, and also the rewards. And it only shows you like past 5 epoch rewards, which is really bad user experience. And with Prism, you can view all the rewards you have, both in Sol and also in USD. And you can also see how much you staked in total. You can combine different accounts and track all of them at the same time. You can see how much you have staked in total, how much rewards you're getting per epoch in dollars and in Sol. And you can also estimate the amount you will have at a different Solana price. For example, you can specify, I want to see what my rewards will be, let's say in 2024, July 13th. And then I can also specify the price that I think Solana is going to be. And then it will calculate the rewards and the amounts you have at that time if the price of Solana is the amount you specify. So that's pretty cool to play around with. And I think that a lot of Solana users are going to use that and find out Prism from that. And that's pretty cool. So I'm going to show you guys that pretty soon. Lisa Fee asks, if is there a name for the tool? So currently there is not a name for the tool. We kind of posted if you guys had any ideas of what we should name it. So we have different ideas, but if the community wants to come up with a name that you guys think is good for a tool like that, definitely feel free to write that. But also after I show you the screenshots and what the platform looks like, I think it's going to be easier to come up with a name. So we can kind of brainstorm on that later. Okay, one second. Let me share Prism here. Can you guys see it now? Can you guys see Prism? Okay. So there are a few differences between the old version. So I don't have the old version UI here at the moment, but one of the first things that we've kind of took into account was the performance indicators for the tokens. So if you remember, we started this like now pretty much all protocols, even Jupyter has the chart and the performance change of a coin. But we were the first to do this in 2021 with symmetry swap, and we basically the token you were swapping was on the top with their 7-day performance and price change, and the token you were swapping to was on the bottom. Jupyter has it on the bottom. Let me check. So this is what I'm talking about, right? So this was on Symmetry, then it was on Prism, and then Jupyter did the same thing here. And now what we did here is we integrated the chart. People don't really look at what the chart looks like because it's so small, even on Jupyter or on what it was on Symmetry. Since the chart is not that big, you can't really tell the difference of what kind of percentage changes are happening since it's relative, right? So that's why we kind of made it small and kind of put it into the token swap dialog in itself. And then we added the performance indicator on the left side of it. So in the USDC, it's 0%. And in Sol, you can see the 31% increase here. So you can kind of quickly, while you're swapping, you can quickly check the performances of the tokens. Apart from that, when you enter the amount, it shows you the best price, where the best price is. So we were also, if you remember, first to display the amount out here instead of like on the route itself, because it made total sense, and now pretty much everyone does this. But it shows you the amount that you're getting. This is the best price, and then you can kind of scroll it down and see the providers here and the amount that they're providing. Yeah, I think it's super clean. So one of the reasons here is like 1inch and other protocols also have like similar things with the aggregators, like different liquidity sources. But to be frank, like most users don't really want to see that information. Because they're always going to want to swap at the best price, right? Why would you switch to a different liquidity source? So that's why we don't show this information unless you click on it and you want to check what other liquidity providers are quoting. So it shows you like that. There's also difference in the token dialog here as well. It's fresh and clean, so to speak. We've got the updated quick selection of tokens. So here you can see the bottom is all of them are liquid staked SOL tokens. We're working on a pretty cool liquid staking product that we're gonna announce soon. But yeah, you guys feel free to compare the routes and the prices that it's giving, because it's there's a lot of difference in some cases between Prism and other aggregators. So yeah, here is the pools. So what happens here is here you got the TVL, the total volume, and the fees that are being generated. By the way, we're also doing a major burn right now from the fees that were collected on Prism pools. And let me get the transaction so I can paste it. So we just burned 5.5 million Prism. Let me write it here. 1 second. So I just posted in the announcements, and here's also the transaction hash if you guys want to check it out. So this was all collected from Prism Pool fees, which is pretty cool because right now what we're seeing is on average more than like $2 million of volume per day on Prism Pools, which is picking up pretty nicely. And if we kind of estimate the TVL growth and also the growth of the activity on Solana itself as market conditions improve and a lot of people come back to Solana and start using it actively, then we should expect pretty good fee collection. So that's pretty cool. Let's move on to the staking. So the staking page looks different as well. I don't have any stakes here. I don't have the wallet connected, but also like if you connect your wallet, you can see the a Prism that you have staked, the unlock date, APY, etc., and you'll be able to collect the rewards and add or remove stake if you'd like. The APYs look like this. So the flexible staking, by the way, if you guys don't know, flexible staking means that you can unstake anytime. So you can stake and then add or remove stake anytime, or you can collect the rewards and unstake the Prism anytime as well. And it has an APY of 11%, and the locked staking is a bit different. So with locked staking, you lock your tokens for an amount of time that you want. So it could be from 1 week to 2 years. And it has the different staking rewards APY. Basically, we distribute the rewards differently based on staking duration that people have. So if you have more staking lockup, then you're going to get more rewards per each buyback and distribution. And with the locked staking, you can't unstake unless the duration is expired, so to speak. So my history is not going to work because I don't have the wallet connected, but you guys can make a swap and check it out there. And then we can go to the Prism Pro section here. Can you guys see it? Okay. So Prism Pro is pretty fast now. Yeah, on the phone, there's one thing though. Since we did the optimizations recently on Prism Pro, mostly we've been focused on V3. There's a lot of things that are coming on mobile side as well. So we optimized the Prism aggregator on phones, but now we're kind of taking a turn to optimize Prism Pro and make it better for phones, make it easier to use. So we want to kind of replicate the centralized exchange trading experience because centralized exchanges even today have much better experience than DEXs. And we think that creating a good experience is what's kind of missing on Solana because it's much better than other chains. So if there is a platform that lets you do the same things that you're doing on a centralized exchange at a same speed, at a similar cheap cost, basically no cost per transaction, then users are going to switch that and start using decentralized apps. So that's kind of our goal and how we're looking at it. Yeah, let me check. There's a lot more tokens. One of the things that we're also looking at is token 22 standard, and we'll be reviewing that and then integrating into Prism so people who are trading tokens that are built on top of token 22 can take advantage of that and trade on the best aggregator. Yeah, so that's a quick overview of V3 and Prism Pro. I share the staking tool screenshots pretty soon, and I'm keen to hearing your thoughts and your feedback on what you like, what you don't like, and what can be improved as we go forward. Let me check some of the questions now and see. So it's pretty cool that you guys like the new UI. Um, I think that Prism has the best UI right now on Solana. If you guys think there's anything else that has a better UI and UX, definitely let me know. um, so let's see the questions. Yeah, so I think Ubermensch quickly touched on Farid's question about the steps you've taken to enhance quality of aggregation. So basically, the way it works is since we're doing the aggregation locally on you, like since when you're using Prism, your device is doing the aggregation itself. Um, there are some of the things that you need to consider when making decisions in terms of the quality of aggregation you're doing. So if you wanted to do like you have to decide between the performance and the aggregation quality and the results that that improvement is going to give. So at some point there is a cutoff, and more performance you have, you're not going to get um, you're not going to get the same amount of better aggregation, and you're going to get really tiny improvements. So we kind of pushed up to that point and then optimized the performance while keeping the aggregation quality high. So one of the things, for example, is middle coin pairs. So when doing aggregation, you need to consider pretty much all the information that is available on chain on liquidity pools. That means that even if you're swapping between Solana and USDC, you need to see the liquidity for all the tokens that are available and see if they have if they share a middle pair. So let's say you want to swap USDC into Sol, and there is a bonk to Sol market. You might be able to get a better rate if you swap USDC to bonk and then bonk to Sol instead of just directly swapping USDC to Sol, right? So since there are a lot of tokens on Solana and a lot of liquidity pools, um, what you need to do is go through them based on the liquidity that is available and also the amount of markets each token has. So I don't want to kind of get it too technical, but basically, yeah, there's you need to create a balance of performance and the quality of aggregation, and we kind of maximized both. Um, let's see. So another question by Farid is, does open sourcing the aggregator enable community contributions and involvement? Yeah, so that is the reason that we're going open source, is to accelerate the development and also let other people contribute as well and earn Prism while doing that. So that's kind of moving into the DAO kind of realm, and letting kind of everyone participate in the development and improving the platform. Because since we have limited resources and we have to focus on something, and it takes time, for example, it takes time to add a liquidity source, uh, while if we open source and protocols that are creating liquidity sources directly integrate by themselves, since they already are making their SDKs, that's going to kind of save time for both of them and also us, and that means there's more time to focus on other features and improving the quality of the platform. And like, let's say 5 people are working on the protocol. Compare that to, I don't know, 30 contributors working on the same protocol. That's basically the difference is really huge, and we want to take advantage of that and also give give the tokens to contributors who actually contribute to the protocol. And also, contributing doesn't necessarily mean development. It could be community engagement, marketing, design, and etc. So that's pretty exciting, and we're working on making that really smooth, and we'll keep you guys posted on the progress on that. So Joe Build asked, do you guys have a front-end React component for the aggregator for integration on other sites? So what we have currently is an SDK that you can use to basically build your own UI on top. If you're building like a front-end app, like an application for users and want to integrate Prism. But one of the things that we also want to release is exactly what you're asking, I think, is the React component, basically a library that you can import into your React project. And then you will directly have the same UI that Prism has, and basically have the Prism swap component into your app with some customizability, like changing colors and etc. But yeah, if you're trying to integrate the SDK, you can head over to the developer section here. And if you have any questions during the integration or anything like that, you can ask us and we'll be happy to answer. And once the React component is out, I'm also going to make sure to let you know. So the next question is what the team plans to grow the community. So there is a few things in the works about that. One thing is that I was kind of thinking about is what other projects are doing is first creating some sort of community meetups on Discord where we talk about Prism, play some games even, and kind of chat. That's one thing because a lot of communities kind of meet up every week and have some giveaways, play some games, and etc. That could be pretty good to connect the community and build relationships. Apart from that, what I was thinking about is apart from giving away like rewarding Prism to users, what we could do is we could use the fees that we're collecting and use a portion of it to buy some NFT that the community votes on, and then give it away to a community member. And that could be pretty good because most of Solana users are NFT users, and we can kind of take advantage of that and bring NFT community into Prism and kind of introduce Prism to a lot of the Solana users. So that could be pretty interesting. If you guys have any thoughts on that, let me know, and we'll pretty much be implementing that. There's going to be a proposal coming in the holders only channel that Prism holders will be able to vote on, and based on that, we'll make the decision. Yeah, that's about the community. So serial killer. By the way, Steve, where are these questions coming from? Are they messaging you directly, or are they not able to attend the AMA? So what is going to set Prism apart from other similar projects when the bull market starts? So there could be a few things. One is the technical aspect of the product. So how well does the product deliver what the users need? And I think we're pretty far ahead in that, as you can see with the version 3. So on the technical aspect, if you take a look at the aggregation side, so how much better rates are Prism giving compared to competitors, then we got that covered. The other thing is the user experience itself. So how appealing is it to use the platform, and do the users come back to using it? So I think that the V3 design is very good. There might be some things that we could improve on, and you guys should definitely check it out and let us know. But I think it's the UI and UX is pretty good, which should be good when it comes to retaining users. So that's on the product side, but the other part is um, the community side, so to speak, because if you compare like other chains, I'm pretty sure that a lot of Ethereum layer twos or other blockchains like Sui and Aptos have a lot of good products, but they have no users. So compared to Solana, where Solana has a very strong community which keeps coming back and is very strong. So that's the community aspect. So I think we have a pretty strong technical product, but what we need to focus on now and sort of going forward is building a bigger community and more connected community. Um, so apart from what I mentioned with the weekly chats and activities that we can do together to connect the community. Um, if you guys have ideas, let's discuss and come up with some pretty good ways that we can build a community. Because one thing that I don't like, for example, in crypto is that a lot of things are based on monetary incentives, especially when it comes to community building. So let's say a project wants to build a community, they can do that by offering some, I don't know, USDC or some rewards to people who join the Discord and etc. But people who are coming to get some monetary incentive also leave or stay AFK after they join the server. So I don't think it's the best way to build a community. Um, the best way would be attracting people who actually use your product and then building a connection from there. So I think our goal should be to spread the word about Prism um, in the ecosystem and get a lot of people to try out Prism. And if they like, they will definitely join our server and then participate in the activities and etc. But also, there's another point that you could make, that there are a portion of people who come from incentives like giveaways and then stay in the channel and then become an active community members, right? Because they check out the community and they like the product, they like the server, and then they stay and keep being active, right? So there is a point there as well. So we can kind of brainstorm and see what the best way would be to do that. Um, but yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on that. I just read Joseph's comment about getting closer to the mic. Were you guys able to hear me or no? Okay. So Wonder Girl asks, is cross-chain integration planned in the next stages now that we have V3 on Solana? Um, to tell you the truth, we have a cross-chain integration already prepared, but we didn't launch it because there's like once you launch on, let's say, another chain, once you expand on that chain, then you need to be actively keep integrating all the liquidity sources. And on Prism, we had this issue that integrating each liquidity source takes a lot of time, and then making sure that it's optimized and the whole platform, the aggregator itself, doesn't become slower or keeps being optimized and keeps providing best rates. It's kind of time consuming. So if we were to expand on other chain, we would have to increase our resources as well and have people solely focused on that chain, for example, and working and integrating liquidity sources there and maintaining the SDK for developers. But so far, I think that doubling down on Solana is a good idea because, like, we didn't change our approach and our opinion about Solana even during the bear market. We were and are strong supporters of Solana, and the reason is not because we're some Solana maxis or something like that. The reason is because even during the bear market, even when Solana used to have some downtimes, it was still a like 10 times the better chain than any other chain that is available. And that is coming from using the chains and not just because we are on Solana. Like using Solana makes you not want to use any other chain, and I think you guys can agree on that because it's fast, it's secure, and also it's very cheap. Basically, there's basically no transaction fees. So yeah, that's. I hope that kind of answers your question. But as we increase our resources, then we might consider expanding and kind of covering other chains. But right now, our focus is to spread the word about V3 and make sure that people are aware about Prism, because when Prism provides better rates and people are not aware of that, it's kind of wasting an opportunity for them. So it's bad for us, and also it's bad for them as well because they could be saving more and making better swaps. So yeah. Lisa Fee asks, any further thoughts on how we can integrate with other projects in the ecosystem and incentives, for example, gaming? That's actually a good question. We've been talking with a bunch of projects about integrating, and one of the issues, and it's sort of been an issue and also a benefit, an advantage for some. So for some projects, the fact that Prism aggregation itself is decentralized is a good thing, and for some it's a bad thing because some people prefer to have to always be able to do aggregation and have no downtime, and some people prefer speed, so they want to have aggregation happen really quickly. This is also this is more of an issue on phones, because since phones don't have that much computing power, the aggregation is slower on phones rather than on computers. So the what is going to fix that is the API that we're going to release. So with the API, basically we're going to give an option to both. If you want to have decentralization and if you want to do the aggregation on your local device anytime you want, then you can use the SDK. But if you want to do the aggregation on using our API on our server and save time and provide much faster and smoother user experience for your platform, then you can use the API. And that's gonna allow a lot of protocols to really easily integrate Prism, because with the SDK you have to make sure that there are no dependency errors, and this is more of like a developer side. You need to make sure that the platform has no conflicts between the libraries that you have. But with the API, you just basically make a URL request. So you just go to our website, sort of our API link, and then ask, I want to swap 5 USDC to Sol, and then it's going to return all the information you need to create a transaction, and you just create a transaction, and the swap happens in like 2 seconds. So I think that gaming projects and sort of more apps like that are going to integrate that more than the SDK, but platforms that rely on the aggregation heavily are going to use the SDK. So Tariq asks, what's the distribution plan for Prism tokenomics? So right now, let me check. We have about 1 billion Prism in circulation, I think. And as you know, in total supply for Prism is 10 billion. But we are thinking of reducing the total supply for Prism. And we'll be making a tokenomics change proposal in the voting channel for holders that you guys will be able to vote on. So it's gonna be a detailed post that you guys can review. So I'm gonna save that for the distribution plan, and yeah, we can discuss that once the proposal is up. So Batman asks, how can you explain how Prism and Symmetry works hand in hand for the newbies? Sure. So there are a few things. One is Symmetry uses Prism for aggregation. So if you go to app.symmetry.py, let me actually share my screen and show you. Can you guys see the screen? Okay, so this is Symmetry. You can check it out, app.symmetry.py. Steve, if you can post the Symmetry link in the chat. Is it still loading for you, Wonder Girl? That's strange. So some people can see it, but some people can't. If you can't see it, you can go to app.symmetry.py and then follow along. So Symmetry is an asset management protocol on Solana. It's an infrastructure that allows pretty much everyone to create platforms, and also it allows users to create index funds and actively managed funds on chain. And that sort of means that you can create your portfolio and automate it if you want. If you want, you can manage it manually. But the good part about automation is, for example, you're buying, I don't know, $10 of some tokens, different tokens every month. Instead of doing that manually, you can just create your fund and then buy your fund tokens using USDC, and then that automatically purchases all the underlying assets, and you hold the fund token. So you hold one thing which represents all the underlying assets. So here, this example, I went into Solana DeFi index. So this holds all these assets like USDC, Rapsol, Orca, Radium, Coin98, GMT, and MSOL with a different weight. So weight is basically relatively how much of each asset it's going to hold based on the amount it has. So it has 18, the TVL on this fund is 18.6K, and then the distribution is as it's shown right here. And here are the automations that it has. So it is selecting top 5 coins by market cap weekly. So basically a 1 week average of market cap, and it's selecting top 5 coins from the asset pool it has defined here. So it's basically filtering out assets and changing the composition. And it has the rebalancing, refiltering frequency of 30 days. So every 30 days, it's going to change the composition based on the rules that it has here, and it's going to change the assets that are here. So you have all the flexibility to create any type of rule you want. This particular one has a rules like that, and it sort of tracks the DeFi of Solana. So where Solana DeFi is going. So if you wanted to get into Solana DeFi, for example, and if you don't want to trade assets manually every time, like each asset at once, you can just mint this SDI, Solana DeFi index, and then just hold the token, and then it's gonna, when the price changes, you can kind of redeem anytime you want. And we're working on integrating the funds into different protocols. So for example, you would be able to mint this index token and then put that index token into a lending protocol like MarginFi, for example, and then borrow USDC if you want to have USDC while you hold the fund token. So there's a lot of cool things that can happen. And the way Prism and Symmetry work in this case is when you're buying an asset here, when you're minting the tokens, let's say I try to mint $100 of SDI. It's going to give me roughly 1.297 of SDI token. And then what it's going to do under the hood is it's going to take this 100 USDC and purchase all these underlying assets using Prism on with these types of weights. So it's gonna, since the target weight here is 10%, it's gonna use $10, which is 10% of 100, to buy $10 of Solana, $7.6 of Orca, $13 of Radium, and $17 of Coin98, $29 of GMT, and $21 of MSOL. And then as the composition and the weights change, your share, so to speak, changes as well. So one thing is purchasing and kind of doing the trading of underlying assets using Prism. Another thing is Prism Pools is built on top of Symmetry Engine. So these funds you can see here, like so, including the Solana DeFi index, is created by Prism, and that means that since those funds have liquidity provision range, this is a functionality that lets the fund provide its liquidity back to Prism and also to Jupiter. And that means when users are trading these assets that are in these compositions, in some cases and pretty consistently, Symmetry Engine is a top liquidity provider. And then when the users are doing swaps using Prism pools, Prism is collecting fees, but not only Prism, but people who hold this fund and all the funds that are created by Prism pools, they also get the fees and kind of increase their portfolios as well. And that's basically kind of a quick overview. It wasn't a quick overview, but I kind of got carried away with Symmetry explanations. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. I think we need to do a lot more threads on way Prism works and way Symmetry works, and we'll be kind of sponsoring bounties on Super Team Earn if you guys want to participate in that and contribute to the protocol and earn some bounties as well. Okay, let's see. Oh, I didn't know that Stage had its own chat, because when we first created the Stage on Discord didn't have a functionality for a Stage chat. So that's pretty cool, because next time what we're gonna do is we're gonna just have the Stage chat in the Stage instead of a Stage questions channel, I guess. So DFL Ermin, is DFL Ermin here? Okay, he was here. DFL Ermin asked, which layer 2s, let me check, which layer 2s do you guys like, and if you plan to do something on Optimism, Arbitrum, if they explode in TVL users aspects. So we're not planning anything on those layer 2s right now. I think Arbitrum is fine, but we're focusing on Solana at the moment. If they explode in TVL or users aspects, we're gonna try to get users from those chains back to Solana. So that's kind of what what our approach is. Let's see. So Tariq asks, I have a question. Where does the team of Prism works from? I mean, what country are you located? And with the regulation issues, does this with the regulation issues, could this affect Prism in any way? So I can't say which countries we're based in, but we're kind of spread all over the world. But in our countries, there are no bad regulations when it comes to crypto, so we're fine with that. But apart from that, since we'll be open sourcing the platform, and since Prism is not since Prism is basically an aggregation platform which takes the liquidity sources that are available and then users are doing their own aggregation, there shouldn't be any problems with the regulators. But in general, we welcome regulation. I think that there could be correct regulation, but so far in the U.S., especially, there is no regulatory clarity, which is bad. But I think that's going to change, and there's going to be regulations that are coming, which is going to be good for the industry overall, if the regulations are not draconian, so that protocols and companies can adjust to that and make sure that they're compliant. But in terms of that, in terms of the other side, which is decentralization, since decentralized products don't collect any information, um, I don't see how they could be regulated on that. Let's see. Oh, Steve, did you get a Solana tattoo? That's pretty nice. Very nice. Cool. Yeah, so Joe said, interesting. Yeah, glad to hear that you have the option to do calculation server side as well as client side. I imagine it could be a heavy lift for some browsers. Yeah, so there have been a few people that are integrating Prism on, especially on mobile apps, and they have been experiencing some problems with V2, uh, mostly performance related, because the aggregation side is a bit heavy for some browsers and for some phones. So Wonder Girl asks, how much RAM and space do you reckon it takes for local aggregation on phone? So mostly the problem with the aggregator on the phones is, the once the aggregation happens, if it might like for some phones it throttles the phone, and you have the same kind of experience as a freezing. So the phone doesn't do anything for like a few seconds, and then it does the aggregation. But it's not really the issue that we've seen so far. Mostly it has been like a minor delays. So for example, when you open it on the phone, when you enter the amount, there is like a 200 millisecond delay between when you enter the amount and when it gets displayed, because the aggregation, it happens real time. So Lisa Faye asks, will Symmetry have a token? I can't speak to that at the moment, but there might be some announcements coming soon. Let's see. So to kind of expand on the phone aggregation, once you have the amount displayed on your phone, so once you enter the amount that you want to swap and it shows you the amount you're gonna get, estimated amount, um, the aggregation doesn't happen after that. So once it shows you that, you'll be able to do the swap really easily, and there's not going to be any delays or any sort of glitches or something like that. Um, and on most phones, there's no problem at all with the aggregator, but on maybe some older phones, there might be a bit of lag. But uh, we're working on improving that and kind of implementing both solutions with the API and SDK. So first, it will try to do the aggregation on an API. So it's going to do it like 0.11 second most of the time. But if the API fails, then it's going to revert back to the SDK and do the aggregation there. So I'm just checking Prism on my phone right now, and it's doing really fine. Um, okay. Yeah, and also a part of the aggregation on locally on your device, part of that is fetching all that data the aggregator needs to do the aggregation, right? So as I said previously, to do the aggregation, you need to fetch all the liquidity source, all the on-chain data for all the liquidity sources that are on Solana. And that's a lot of data. And so especially if you have a slower internet connection, that might take a bit of time to load in terms of like internet speed. But other than that, the aggregation should happen pretty smooth. Yeah, and as Uberman said, the RPC calls are basically doing on-chain calls, so fetching data from the chain and then writing data on the chain. That's what an RPC call is. And we use the RPC calls to fetch the chain liquidity source information. And there, when you load up Prism in V2 in the older version, there was like 130 RPC requests, and then we brought it down to about 30. So that's a pretty big improvement as well. Because some developers use free RPCs. We don't use free RPCs, but some free RPCs have a rate limit. So you can't do more than, let's say, 50 RPC calls per second. And since Prism was doing like 130 in like a matter of few seconds, it for some users it did the RPC free RPC providers were rate limiting them and kind of restricting access for a few moments. But now that shouldn't be a problem with V3. So Steve asks, when will Symmetry exit experimental release? So the experimental release is on the front end platform, not the engine itself. So engine is fully live on mainnet. The front end is an experimental release because it's mostly intended for developers to check out the platforms and see what type of platforms they can build on top of Symmetry engine. So we'll be coming out with different products and also mobile app for Saga, which will be built on top of Symmetry engine, and that should be the official app, so to speak. In the meantime, anyone can use the Symmetry app as well. It just means that the we released this sort of like a platform that is built on top of Symmetry engine. There's not any work planned for XNFT at the moment, but if there will be, we'll announce it for sure. So Batman asks, anything on quests? Um, so you guys might have seen that Marginfy and a few other platforms released sort of like a point system, reward system, so to speak. And I tweeted, I think yesterday, about an idea for someone, or if there is a platform already for that, that's good. For a platform that lets you create a rewards program, so to speak, by using a program address. So you specify, for example, Prism, and then what users have to do to get certain points and what type of points they get for each type of interaction, right? That's something that we're thinking about doing on Prism because we need to make sure that we're rewarding users with quests if they do something that kind of contributes to the success of the protocol, right? That can't be solely about doing swaps because then people just can game that and create a bunch of random swaps like with 0.001 cent or something like that. So yeah, we could use something like that, and both on Pro and on Prism as well. But something about we've been discussing a few days ago in one of the channels about what we could do to reward users that, for example, use Prism, swap on Prism pools. We can, for example, give a cashback or something like that. So that's still in progress, so to speak. And as we have a clearer idea of how we can incentivize users while kind of not doing something that kind of doesn't benefit the project, we're going to implement it. So Lisa and Wonder Girl asks for a marketing related question. So there are two types of marketing. One is the community building, so to speak, that I talked about previously. Another one is more sort of like official marketing. And we've been talking to a few top marketing firms that do crypto related marketing. And we were not really happy with what they provide. So mostly they charge up to like $50,000 a month. And what they do is they get sort of like an article feature on a bunch of random websites, and then maybe one or two good news crypto news site. And first, they don't immediately do that. First, they need to kind of onboard you, and there's going to be like a few months of talking back and forth, and then at the end of, let's say, 3 months, they're going to get you an article on Cointelegraph or something like that. So I think spending that kind of money on that type of marketing right now wouldn't have any results, especially when it comes to growing the protocol users and the community, because we were so in deep in the bear market, right? And chain usage was down a lot overall, across the ecosystem. But I think as Solana is starting to pick up, we could consider to kind of create sort of a relationship with them, and then get some articles out as well. But basically, it's like, yeah, like that. That's the traditional type of marketing. But I think we could grow the community and do. I don't like to call it marketing, but it's basically like reaching people that actually want to use our product, right? And that is the reason of marketing. But the word marketing has so many meanings that, yeah. And yeah, Batman is right. Word of mouth is the best way of marketing as well. Um, and it has the highest returns and results compared to like paid advertising and stuff like that. So yeah, I think we should try to come up with ways we can engage outside communities on Solana, and then create some activities that is going to attract people to find out about Prism and then join our community and grow the community as well. So having a panel of breakpoint is a good idea as well. But what we could do for the breakpoint is we could have some sort of like a treasure hunt or some event organized with some rewards. I think that worked pretty well in the last breakpoint, even though it was like a full on bear market and a lot of bad things happened during last breakpoint. Um, I think the treasure hunts and some activities organized by a few protocols on Solana worked pretty well. So I think we should we should note this, by the way, and kind of start working on creating some sort of an event for Breakpoint, so I can chat with the Solana team and make sure that uh, it's prepared when the Breakpoint comes in November. Are there any other questions? It was good. Thanks for asking. Do you guys hear the music, by the way? I think you can unmute it in the page options or something. Dog is dog is doing well. Yeah, it's been doing fine. Okay, guys, I think we're gonna slowly. My voice is almost out, but thanks everyone for joining. Um, I hope you guys like version 3 and what we've been working on so far. If you guys have any feedback, positive or negative, doesn't matter. We're listening to you guys' feedbacks, and let's build the best community and the best trading platforms on all chains. And also watch out for the proposals in the next days. There's going to be pretty sick proposals in the holders only channels. You guys don't know, there's holders only channels that we have. And to be able to view and interact in those channels, you need to have Prism staked. There are different amounts of that you can stake to get a different role and have access to voting and submitting proposals and etc. And you can check how to join. And yeah, after the AMA, we're gonna announce the burn that we did during the AMA. Okay, guys, that's that's pretty much it. Thanks again, and see you guys pretty soon in our first community activity meetup next week. Yeah.